Hello, everybody, wherever you are. I hope you're well and happy. I'm back to read you some more from Molly Moon's incredible book of hypnotism. I've got to chapter 13, and today, for you to look at, is this picture by Georgie Hopton, who's a friend of mine. She's a really good artist, and although she's making pictures at the moment, collages out of wool and wallpaper that are great, I haven't got one of those to show you, so I've got this for you to look at instead, which is a picture of a tulip in a vase. You may think that it's really apt for this time that we're in because it's behaving, you may think it's behaving oddly, and the world is quite odd at the moment. But actually, I suppose it's not really behaving oddly, because this is what a tulip would do if it was in a vase. It would droop. They do droop, tulips, when they're in vases. But anyway, I love this picture. It's for you to look at. Chapter 13. The airport was an hour and a half drive from Briarsville. Molly sat in the back of the minibus, stroking Petula and looking out of the window at the countryside shooting by. She drank it all in, not sure when she would be seeing it again, now that she was going to America to find Rocky. She wasn't bothered if she never came back, nor did she care that she didn't really know where in America she was going. She felt bold, strong, rich, and eager to see the world. Miss Addiston drove fast and furiously to the airport, and she and Edna helped Molly out of the minibus. They seemed almost sweet now as they stood huddled together for solace. Miss Addiston in her snipped-up suit with her knickers on her head, and Edna in a tight-fitting Italian-looking mac. They dabbed their eyes with hankies. Edna's had a map of Italy sewn on hers. Oh, Molly will bleedin' well miss you, Edna said weepily. Best of luck, Molly dear, Miss Addiston sniffed. Thank you, Molly said cheerfully. Petula gave Miss Addiston a dirty dog look. Send us a postcard. Do keep in touch. Molly nodded. Then she decided to give each of them a farewell present. She clapped once, and both went into a deep trance. Now listen carefully, you two, Molly said. I'm going to give you some new interests, so your lives get, more interesting. Miss Addiston, from now on you will have a big passion for... Molly looked around for inspiration. For aeroplanes. Yes, and flying. Yes, that's it. You're going to learn to fly planes. And Edna, well, you will love Italian cooking and Italy even more. You'll love Italian fashion and Italian cars. Oh, and the language, of course. You'll learn to speak Italian. And from now on, both of you will be really, really nice to all children. Molly felt satisfied that she'd been very generous to everyone at Hardwick House. She clapped twice, and Miss Addiston and Edna came out of their trances. Miss Addiston started to sniff again. Oh, you're so lucky, Molly, to be going on a plane. I've always wanted to fly. Molly helped Petula inside her travelling basket. Goodbye, then, she said. She turned away, and the sound of Miss Addiston and Edna's wails faded as she stepped inside the terminal building. Boy, oh boy, Molly said under her breath. I'd like a ticket on the next plane to New York, please. The airline clerk peered over her desk at the plain, small girl whose chin was level with the top of the counter. I'm sorry, but we can only sell tickets to passengers who are 16 or over. Molly took her dark glasses off and her eyes beamed out. irresistibly at the uniformed woman. "I am 16, Molly said, giving the woman her passport. The clerk suddenly saw a girl who was obviously at least 16. Molly held out some money. "Madam, of course, I wasn't thinking properly. I do apologise, but I'm afraid you'll have to buy your ticket at the ticket desk over there, and besides, you're too late to check in for the next flight. It's nearly finished boarding. It leaves in 20 minutes. Molly increased her eye voltage. I'm so sorry, the blue-suited woman said bewilderedly. I don't know what's come over me today. For a VIP like you, madam, of course I can arrange everything. It'll be £450. Do you have any baggage? No. The woman took Molly's money and wrote a few details down before handing her a ticket and a boarding pass. Please make your way as far as you can to gate 25. Have a good trip. The clerk smiled happily at Molly as she walked away. Then she got up and walked over to the ticket desk to make a note of the cash transaction. Molly hurried through the departure gate and up to the X-ray machine. After a good eye flash, the security guard let her pass through without checking her dog basket, and Molly padded past duty-free shops and down carpeted corridors until she found gate 25. Professor Knockman arrived, sweating and panting, at the ticket desk. Did a girl just buy a ticket here? He asked aggressively. She would have bought it with cash. Sir, we have hundreds of people buying tickets here every day, said the ticket clerk crisply. Yeah, Professor Knockman said rudely, but a girl of 10 or so, she... Sir, we don't sell tickets to children, and besides, we don't divulge information like that. The telephone behind the desk rang, and the woman turned to answer it. The professor leaned forwards and scanned the piece of paper in front of her, reading it upside down. Give me a ticket to New York. She seemed to have made a note of a cash payment for a ticket to New York for a M. Moon. I want to catch the 2500 flight, demanded the professor. The woman looked down at her list and crossly covered it with her hand. I'm afraid it's too late to board the 8 o'clock plane. The gates have closed. Indeed they had. Molly had stepped onto the plane, the last passenger. Molly showed the air hostess her economy ticket and flashed her eyes. First class, I think, she suggested, and was escorted to the first-class compartment at the front of the plane. She put Petula, hidden in her basket, on the empty seat beside her. As Professor Knockman stamped and raged, Molly was doing up her belt. As a security guard put his hand on the professor's shoulder, a hostess brought Molly a drink of orange juice. Professor Knockman had to make do with a ticket on the next plane to New York 5 hours later. As the plane roared down the runway and took off into the darkening sky, Molly looked out of the window. It was her first time on a plane, and she found the idea of being in a chunk of metal scary. Her hands began to get sticky, but then she noticed how calm all the air hostesses and air hosts were, and she felt better. She looked out of the window and watched the twinkling lights of the airport falling away as the plane climbed higher and higher. She looked to the west in the direction of Hardwick House. It was somewhere down there, miles and miles away. Molly breathed a sigh of relief. It was good to be leaving. Hardwick House had nothing to offer her now, and somehow she was sure she'd see Rocky again. Then everything would be hunky-dory. Maybe she could hypnotise his family to adopt her too. Or they could run away together and live out of a suitcase. Molly's mind boggled as she thought about America. She'd seen it so often on television programmes. Soon she'd be living the happy life that she'd been longing for. She wouldn't have to watch the adverts to get there anymore. Molly began to investigate the small television screen attached to her armrest. From the viewing gallery on the airport roof, Professor Notman fumed as he saw the plane taking off. Moon, he muttered. I've clocked you, Moon. He twiddled the gold scorpion medallion that hung around his neck. So, you've got the book, and you've learnt a new trick or two. Well, ain't you a smart Alec? But not so smart that you covered your tracks. You better watch it, Kitty. I'm hot on your heels. Oh, and when I hook you, whoa, you're gonna really wish you never laid eyes on that book at all. And that is the end of chapter 13. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will be back to read you another chapter, chapter 14, soon. Keep well and happy hypnotizing.